We welcome you back as we move to our with our second interview with our candidate, Sandra Jones. And may I call you Sandra?
Absolutely.
All right. Sandra, you and I were thinking earlier we had met each other around town before, not exactly sure where, but anyway, it's good to see you again. I welcome you to the WFJA studio and to these candidate interviews. I'm sure that there are folks out there who have not had the opportunity to meet you, and so why don't we begin today with giving you the opportunity just to tell folks a little bit about yourself, your background, why you've gotten involved in running for the county commission, that kind of thing.
Well, I grew up in Jamestown, North Carolina, which is a small town in Guilford County, but I've lived in Lee County since 1980. I am a graduate, bachelor's degree from Appalachian State University. I have a master's degree from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. And I was ordained as a minister at Emmanuel Congregational Christian Church on Wilkins Drive. I've served a few churches in town in a ministerial capacity, but in 1988, I was asked and appointed by Superior Court Judge Wiley Bowen to serve as a magistrate here in Lee County. I've gone through several judges, several different appointments, but I was able to serve for 29 years and 9 months. So I think having served in community service here in Lee County as a public servant, I think I wanted to continue that. I tried once before to run as county commissioner a couple of years ago, but I was fresh from retirement, jumping into an area I had knew nothing about, brand new, and really didn't know the ropes ins and outs. Now I have studied. I think I know more. I know a little more about running a campaign and about politics in general, and I still feel like I have more to give to this community, and I want to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for wanting to be involved in your community and to make a difference and to do your part. Let me take just a moment as a reminder to folks that are listening that you are listening to 105.5 FM WFJA and WWGP 1050 AM and 95.1 FM. Sandra, I was looking through websites this week, trying to do a little research on you, and I liked your Facebook page. And I also noticed, I think it was on the Republican Party's Facebook page, a video that featured all three of you that are running for the commission office. It just showed each person's picture, their name, and then one word. The word that was listed with you, let me make sure I got that right, was the word justice. Was that just coincidental, or does that word justice have special meaning for you in this campaign?
I would say a combination of both. One thing I tried to remember when I was a magistrate, that every single individual that was coming into my office, be they angry, be they intoxicated, be they puzzled or hurt, had gone through domestic violence or whatever, at that moment in time, they were doing the best they could, regardless. And it was my responsibility to reach them where they were, to find out what the situation was. I don't care if they were a criminal or if they were a victim, what was going on and how I could best serve them. Even if they're a criminal, some reason they were there, something led them to be there. And you had to take all kinds of circumstances into the situation. It wasn't just one size fits all. You had to check each person where they were coming from, and as long as they didn't give me any reason to change my opinion of them by their attitude, I tried to disperse justice to them the best I could.
Mm-hmm. Well, with 28 years as a magistrate,
29.
29. Well, you for sure saw a little bit of everything that happens between we human beings as we struggle with each other. Wow. Moving on to a question that I'm sure concerns all of our voters, all of our taxpayers. I'd like to get your opinion about the bond referendum on building a sports complex here just outside of Sanford, Lee County. There are proponents, there are those who are very much opposed to it. It will result in some tax increase. I'd like to know where you stand on whether or not the county should have this sports complex built at the taxpayer's expense.
I've talked with several parents who are all for the complex. They talk about the need of having a facility to have travel teams come here for tournaments and different things. In fact, I spoke with one parent who said that their child's travel team was supposed to play a game against a Wake County group over at the county fairgrounds, but the field was so bad the Wake County team would not play.
Wow.
So I understand that side of it, why they want it, and where it could be an advantage to our community. My only question is, since we're asking for public money to pay for the whole thing, who is going to be allowed to use it? Is it just these travel teams and tournaments? Are we going to be able to have like church league softball, industrial league softball? Latino groups are always looking for places to have soccer teams and soccer groups. Who exactly is going to be allowed to use it? And with the public money, are the fees going to be as such that would stop some of these local teams from using it? How is it going to serve the whole community, not just one individual segment of it? I also feel like I've heard several business people tell me it's going to bring money and revenue and all these amenities to Lee County, and that's great, and I hope it does. But if that is the case, why can't we get an incentive to a private group to come and help support this sports complex rather than the Lee County citizens carrying the entire burden of it? Perhaps if we can do that, there won't have to be a tax increase.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another issue that I'd like to ask you about that's maybe related to that, because you're talking about bringing in amenities and so forth and business opportunity and all that, would relate to using county tax incentives, which means basically giving a tax break to an industry or a business that is going to be coming here that promises to add jobs. And, the county uses these tax incentives sometimes to attract new employers. Excuse me. What is your position on that? Do you think that's a good idea or not?
In 1994, the Supreme Court McCready case out of Forsyth County said that any time any incentives are used to draw business, it has to be done in such a way that it benefits the entire county. There was a time when they did strictly what you say, tax incentives. You bring your business to Lee County and you won't have to pay property tax for 5 years. The county usually lost in that situation, not just Lee County, but any county, because they would provide amenities and then the business would fold and you never get any of the tax money. What Lee County is doing now, what they did with the new business at Central Carolina Enterprise Park and some other places, is what they call performance incentives. The business promises to do so much capital improvement to the property. They promise to bring X amount of jobs at this amount of salary, and they promise to pay their taxes up front. So they have to prove to Lee County through their records that they've done what they said in the contract, that they did do the capital improvements, that they did provide X amount of jobs for the community at this salary. Then if they meet their performance, the county will rebate part of their property tax back to them. Now, the first year, let's say if they're supposed to pay $100,000 in taxes, and we may give them back 80%. Well, that's still $20,000 in the coffers that Lee County didn't have. The next year's a little less, next year's a little less, till in time we're getting all their property tax. And it also gives the county the money to bring the amenities around to their business, like water and sewer, broadband, and so forth, in those areas which would attract other businesses. Mm-hmm. Those organic incentives can help tremendously also.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned water and sewer. all of these infrastructure issues, the county ends up paying for them. And as we attract more housing, more people, jobs, certainly then you have to have schools, hospital, highways, police, sheriff. You have to have all of these things. Do you think that the county needs to continue to pursue this kind of growth? Can our infrastructure support it? What are your thoughts on that?
We have to be proactive. If we continue to go along this path, we're going to have to be ahead of the curve rather than trying to catch up. I talked with a member of SAGA who told me that when these businesses come to Lee County, about 30 or 40% of Lee County residents are actually working at these jobs. And a lot of other people from other counties would be commuting in and taking these jobs. And in fact, normally the CEOs and the managers don't live in Lee County. So my question is why? We have a lot of apartments going up in Lee County, and we need them for these workers. But we also need other types of housing, maybe some high-income housing to attract some of these other people rather than them going to Cary or going to Apex or somewhere nearby. I know the county commissioners just passed a land use plan, and to be honest with you, I haven't looked at it. But I hope things like that are in there that will attract all types of people to our county, because the incentives we gave them, but we had a company in the Jonesboro area, Thorough 6, so a manufacturing garment business, came in with no incentives because they liked the area, they liked what we could offer, and they were adding a step 2 up from what you would call minimum wage jobs, which we need also to help individuals in our county.
Yeah, we love those that come in without any incentives.
Exactly.
Yeah, bring all those that we can get. Wow. Because of your background as a magistrate, I want to ask you a question related to law enforcement. This has been a pretty tough year for law enforcement as far as maybe public opinion and news reports, a lot of accusations of police brutality, there's even talk of defunding police departments. Do you think that these accusations have been fair? What is your opinion about the state of law enforcement, and to what extent the commissioners need to work with the sheriff's department to improve image or, anything related to that?
Do I think it's totally fair? No, not really. You're going to have bad apples in with good ones in any organization. But one thing I will commend Sheriff Carter on is that he has a community police group within his organization, and they go out amongst the community. They have a summer camp for young people. They work with the Boys and Girls Club. They have a system set up where if you have an elderly parent living in this community and you live far away, you can ask them to check on them on occasion to make sure they're doing okay. They do that. They have the students in the schools make Christmas cards for these shut-ins to make sure they're remembered at the holidays. So I think Sheriff Carter has done a very good job, and James Estes, who runs the community organization, in bringing a face to the deputies, to the community, say, hey, we're not bad guys. We're here to help you. We're here to serve. They go to churches and do how can you make your church safe when we've had church shootings and so forth. The resource officers make a point of getting to know children in their schools to see that just because I have on a uniform, I'm not a bad guy. I'm really on your side, and I'm here to help you.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, you interacted a lot with the Sheriff's Department through the years, didn't you? Yeah.
Every day.
Okay. Let me ask about, here we are in the midst of this pandemic. The governor, at first kind of, along with the rest of the nation, shut down most business, the schools, etc. And then he had these phased reopenings. What is your opinion of how the governor did in that? Do you think he moved the reopening too slowly, too quickly, about right? What's your thoughts on the state of how to control the pandemic now?
Well, I'm not a scientist or a health person. I can just go by my own, what I have gone through personally. When the virus first struck and we shut everything down, I think that was necessary. We didn't know what we were facing. It was something brand new. We didn't know how it was spread, how contagious it was, and you had to get a handle on it. So phasing up to a point, I totally agreed with. But I think we've gotten to the point now that we know how to treat this virus. We know how to keep susceptible people safe. And if you have a business, I think you should have a right to open your business regardless of what it is. Now, it's also your responsibility to make sure that your business is safe. If I don't feel safe coming to your business, then I'm not going to come in, and you're not going to have many customers. So I think the responsibility is on the business owners to do it in such a way that I, as a consumer, would want to come in to your business. Other than that, nobody's twisting my arm. I can turn around and walk away.
Mm-hmm. Would you think that the local county commission would ever be in a position to need to make any sort of rules enforcing the use of like face masks or whatever?
I would hope not. I hope this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But again, I think even the county commissioners would have to meet with the scientists, and if the health department came in and said this, and this, I think we have to take their advice and see what happens. But like I said, you're talking about something maybe I hope for a shorter piece of time than what we've been through, because there's always the unknown, and I think fear of the unknown feeds part of this too.
Okay. Sandra, I can't believe how the time has flown. We only have about 2 minutes left. I wanted to give you the opportunity, if there was something that you wanted to be sure to tell our listeners before this election, and something maybe I just didn't think to ask you about.
I think my serving in the position I did so long gives me a unique insight into Lee County, and to see problems that possibly the average person doesn't see. For example, I've heard SAGA and the Chamber talk about how we're wonderfully centrally located to bring in businesses and so forth, and that's great. The problem is the central location has another side. We're 30 miles from I-40, I-85, 95, etc., and we have become the HUD for the drug trafficking. They can bring it here, sort it out, and hit an interstate very quickly. And that's not something we're trying to address the opioid situation. But opioids are expensive. Now they go to heroin because it's cheaper. They have methamphetamines. We had a whole tractor trailer load of marijuana come up from Texas and stop right out here on White Hill Road. And we're able to grab hold of it. So we have become a hub out in our county areas. And I think that there's a reason why somebody becomes a drug addict. There's a reason why somebody becomes homeless. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, I think I'll be homeless today.
Yes.
There's an underlying reason. It could be a mental health reason. It could be financial reason. It could be, why are you just medicating yourself? And we do not do a good job in Lee County with mental health. There's not a single mental health bed in this county. We don't have the type of treatments and so forth that we need for these people. And until you can find the underlying root that causes these problems, like homelessness and drug addiction and so forth, if you can't treat those, you can put them in housing, but they're going to be right back out on the street if you haven't killed the root of the problem. So I think there's some things like that that we have not looked at that we really do need to look at for our citizens. And in the long term, it'll improve the quality of life for everyone in Lee County, not just a certain few individuals. Without the drug addiction, you could cut down the crime. You could cut down I've heard people complain about panhandling in downtown Sanford. There's a reason why these people are doing that. We need to search and find out why.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up. Just a week ago, a situation came to my attention of a homeless, mentally ill person. And I was a little bit involved in finding it was very difficult to find resources to help somebody like that.
And probably 20 to 25% of the individuals in Lee County Jail right now that we're feeding and housing are there simply because they can't get mental health treatment.
Yeah, wow. I'm glad you're willing to look into that. Well, we have very little time left, only about 15 seconds. So let me just take a moment and say I have enjoyed so much talking with you and getting reacquainted, and I wish you the best in this campaign. So I'd like to join Sandhills Broadcasting and The Rant in thanking Sandra Jones for her time today. We're going to take a short 2-minute break, and when we return, we'll be talking with Commissioner candidate Bill Carver. So stay with us, and we'll be right back after these messages.